Well, good morning, Bilal. Bilal is
Good
one of
morning.
our current master practitioner students. And Bilal, you said you haven't had developmental coaching before. Is that true?
That's correct. Yes.
Okay. So this is an intake session. An intake session, Bilal, what we're doing is we're really identifying what the real challenge is behind the challenge. We have a saying, and I was saying it to you before, which is the problem's never the problem. So the intake session is really gaining clarity around if we're going to do some developmental work, where's the leverage and what is the real topic we need to address? Okay, so
Mhm.
do you have a topic in mind that you'd like to coach to today, Bilal? Do you have a challenge?
I was having a think about that last night, Jay, in the lead up to our catch up today. Uh, I got two areas which somewhat connected and somewhat paralyzing.
Okay,
One of them is I have a strong bias toward the closure,
okay,
and I have high value toward quality, and sometimes I fear one of them could impede or impact the other one.
okay. When you say quality, what do you mean, Bilal?
Mm. Uh, like I'm super motivated to close things off,
Right.
finish off
Okay.
things,
Yep.
and I fear that this driver, which is a meta program driver, is uh, is impacting the quality of work delivered.
How is it
It-
impacting it?
well, if it's done in a rush,
Right.
is it impacting the quality? If I procrastinate, would I be able to deliver
Right.
better, better product, better outcome, better output? So I value quality, but
Yep.
sometimes I feel, or he feel that it's compromised
Okay.
with the closure.
Okay. Have you got an actual example that we could talk through rather than talking about it? Can we talk to an actual experience, a single one-time event, Bilal, so we can ground it?
Well, the, say the assignment for the final assignment for the the practitioner course,
Okay.
the 1,000 word assignment,
Yep.
and I held myself accountable for the deadline to deliver it on that deadline, which was May last year,
Yep.
and um, and I put it together, delivered it, and then went over a couple of times, and I modified it. Then went over again after I submitted it, and thinking, well, it could have been better. It could have been
Okay.
better,
Okay.
and that's an example that relevant to the study.
Okay.
But it's I see it as a pattern in things that I do, and
Like, where else does it play out? Where else does it play out in a way that costs you, Bilal?
hmm, uh, probably purchases as well, making purchases.
Okay.
Yeah, uh, make a purchase, say purchase a car or property,
Yep.
then a few months later, I'll see the same thing at lower price or something of better value, same price,
Right.
uh, which the regrets comes in, and
Okay.
I'll start pushing that feeling away because it's like handbrake. Regrets to me is like handbrake, stop me from
Okay.
moving forward.
How do you
Yeah.
push regret away, Bilal? How do you do that?
I usually frame it as lessons,
Okay.
frame the experience as lesson learned.
Okay. But let's slow down there. So you
Mm.
frame it as a lesson, but have you actually learned? Or is that part of the pattern?
Probably the latter.
Right.
But,
Right. You frame it
mm,
as a learning, but
mm,
actually you've just moved on again.
mm,
Right. So there's
yeah,
two things, as you said, occurring, right? And there's two things behind that I hear occurring for you. The
mm,
first is you're running a program called impatience,
mm,
Yeah. And so the high level of closure is not just a high level of closure, it's a high level of closure in a finite period, short term. So there's impatience and short term thinking happening. Yeah.
Mm.
And so that means that it's not just the closure that you want the closure quickly.
Yep.
Okay. And then that impacts your slow thinking.
Mm.
So all this is part of fast thinking. There's like fast thinking is fast twitch thinking. It's thinking through things from a content perspective. Yeah. So it's caught in the content, caught in the story, caught in the process, caught in the enculturation, caught in all of the elements. Slow thinking is to slow things down and break down the structure of your thinking. So now you start to think through models, like, for example, perspectives. You start to think through time, you start to think through understandings, you start to bring in the previous learnings and think using those previous. That's slow thinking. So what I'm hearing is you're super good at fast thinking.
Mm. Probably the competitive element comes into it, because I do have a competitive streak in my personality. Even when there is no competition, I'm still competitive.
Okay. How does the competitiveness impact the desire for closure quickly?
By doing something that other people or me previously in a shorter time than previous experience.
Right.
It's
Right.
because I have that fear of forgetting about things and things falling into the cracks. So by closing them off, allow me to move forward.
Right. And moving forward's important to you?
Because I have that visual image of a clutter, and by everything having it done and closed off, that means it's filed away, so it's no longer a clutter. So allow me to move forward in orderly fashion.
Okay. So having things done, having things closed quickly equals orderly for you.
Yeah,
Okay. And is that important to you? Is doing things in an orderly way important to you, Bilal?
it is. It is, because it feels like it's the right place on the timeline.
Right. Okay. So let me just check in. What's the fear behind the drive to get things done timely, Bilal? What do you believe about time that you haven't said yet?
It's an indicator of order, indicator of organizational uh, order.
Okay. So now here's a really big question.
Hmm.
So what? How's it a problem for you?
Yeah. Uh, it's irritating.
Okay.
I I even test myself, try to walk away from it, and I do a few steps and come back, then try to walk a few steps and come back, and until it's done, I can't really walk away from it.
Right, because of the fear that if you don't get it done in a timely manner, you won't get it done, and
Mm,
then we're back to the clutter,
mm,
right? And so this is your strategy for avoiding the clutter,
yeah,
right? So the whole process of done, closed quickly equals a strategy, a motivation strategy for staying orderly and
correct.
avoiding the clutter, right?
Mm,
It's a motivation strategy.
mm.
So is it working?
Yes and no. Uh,
Yeah.
ruffles feathers along the way with a lot of people,
Okay.
close and far.
Right. So
And
it's impacting your relationships.
yes, yes.
Okay.
Sometimes it's actually yield the praise in the project context and deliverable
Sure.
context,
Sure.
but in a closer surrounding may cause friction
Okay. And is
because
that
not everything is a project really.
sure?
Not everything is a project.
Yeah. So I can hear that you can see that contextually it works, habitually it doesn't work.
Correct.
Right. So is that what you want to coach to? Do you
Yeah.
want to coach to being able to discern when to run this strategy and when not to?
Correct.
When's it going to impact your relationships and when's it worthwhile? When's like,
Mm,
you know what, I've got choice. I'm going to choose to
mm,
do this, even though I know there are consequences. The consequences are worth it.
mm,
Two, you know what, I'm not going to run this strategy now because the consequences aren't worth it. I want to honor the relationship over the task.
correct.
Is that what you'd like?
Yeah. I want to have the program, not be had by the program.
Right. So let's go all the way back to the fear that drives this strategy.
Mm,
Let's go all the way back to what do you fear is going to happen if you don't keep running this strategy habitually, Bilal?
fear if I don't practice it, I will lose it.
Right,
Yeah. And the more I practice it, the better I become at it.
right.
Mm. So,
Well, that's the strategy.
mm,
That's the strategy showing up in the strategy.
mm,
Can you see that? That's the
yeah.
strategy playing out in you, right? So the fear that underpins this is the strategy.
Mm,
That is, the fear is that if you don't run the strategy and practice the strategy, it'll fall through the cracks and become clutter again. Can you see that? So that's a meta strategy. So it's not only a strategy, the strategy is being applied to the strategy. That is what's called a double bind, Bilal.
mm,
That is, you're damned if you do, you're damned if you don't.
mm,
You're caught because you're applying the strategy to the strategy. That locks it in place. Do you see? There's no way out. It's like believing your beliefs. When you believe your beliefs, it's fundamentalism because now
mm,
you can't change a belief because you believe that your beliefs are you. Then you change the belief, you change you. Then you're not going to change those beliefs. You lock
mm,
them in place.
mm. That's a very good pickup.
So is that
Mm,
what we're coaching to, Bilal? Is unwinding the
mm,
strategy, locking in the strategy.
yeah, yeah, 100%. I see that. Yeah. Mm. Brilliant.
So what are we taking away? What are you taking away from our time together today, Bilal? In this clarity conversation, in this intake session?
Awareness, control, which something I have a bias toward.
Okay.
And so yeah, not every battle needs to be won, and not everything is a project.
Right. But do you hear how you're metaphoring events? You're metaphoring them as battles. Can you hear that? So you're going, not every battle, what's presupposed is they're all battles, needs to be won. Right? So how have you come to metaphor them as a battle? How have you come to see reality as a battle?
Because it's a battle within. I know what's
right,
what's serving and what's not serving.
Right.
And
yeah.
And battle against the disposition.
Right. But you see, what you're doing is you're battling yourself. Right.
It is battle against oneself, yeah.
Yeah. And so that's black and white. What's in between black and white?
Spectrum.
Right. And how would you metaphor the spectrum differently than a battle?
Garden path.
Okay. Right. And if you were to expand that, if you were to walk along that garden path, what would be different to a battle?
Sampling flowers, sampling plants, sampling nature.
Yeah. Right. So do you see your current way is the way of the process-driven drill sergeant, which is, this is how we drill this is how we learn this, we do it again and again and again and again until we get it right. Your different way of being, Bilal, is the gardener walking down through his garden, noticing the change, the growth, the development, and noticing what he needs to do given the change, the growth, the development, as he sees things every single time anew. How do those metaphors land for you?
Yeah. Different, a lot different.
So that's what we're coaching to. When we're coaching from bringing into awareness all of the aspects of the drill sergeant, the beliefs, the values, the identity structures, the past, the memories, the history. And then we're opening and awakening where you're moving to, your metaphor, which is the native gardener. Thank you for spending some time with us today.
Thank you. Thanks for the insight, Jay.
It's been really lovely. Thanks, buddy.
Thank you. See you later.